That's according to the hadith. The woman came to the Prophet, she's called Khatibat al-Arab, an Ansariya. She came, it's in Sahih Bukhari. And she began to speak, and the women, and this was from their intelligence, they chose the most eloquent of all the women they had to go. She was an official delegate sent to speak on behalf of the women of Medina. And when she gave her khutbah, the Prophet ﷺ looked and he said, "What do you think of this woman?" They said, "Subhanallah, we didn't even have that realization." Because women in that society did not give khutbah. And so what they were so impressed with was her ability to speak in front of an audience of strangers. Because that is what oration is you're speaking, and it takes a type of courage that many people are intimidated by. And that's why in this culture they say that public speaking is a greater fear than death for some people. Just actually getting up front. So here's a woman who got up front and she gave her khutbah, and the Prophet looked at his men to tell them, "What do you think?" In other words, watch out. Don't think that you've got this advantage. That women can bring forth those who are capable of speaking with forcefulness and power. And when she finished, the Prophet ﷺ said to her, because what she said was, we stay at home, we tend our children, we do all these things, but the men, they have sadaqah, they go out fi sabilillah, and fight in defending Islam and doing these things, and it would seem they get much better rewards than we do, because we read the Quran and there's all these verses saying how the mujahid gets all these rewards. So the Prophet ﷺ looked at her and he said, a woman who is taking care of her children and her home has the station and the reward of a man in jihad fi sabilillah. Which means that if you're at home with your wife, she is getting a reward that is equivalent to a man who's out in battle. And you're sitting there saying, "Get my tea." If you knew the maqam, you would be getting her tea. Really. So we have to recognize that is one of the myths that need to be removed. And I am saying this as an advocate, because I've looked at the Muslim community and I believe, in all truthfulness, I believe that our women are oppressed. I believe that. And I think that we as Muslim men need to deal with this fact, and the reason for that is we are going to lose our women. We are going to lose our women to the forces out there that are telling them they're oppressed, that are making them feel oppressed. Only their idea of oppression is not the same as our idea. They think it's oppressed to be wearing a hijab. And we believe it's oppressed to be presented in a world in which men have passions that they are less capable of controlling than women. And you put them in a situation in which they are compromised. It is men's weakness that the hijab was given. It is men's weakness. That's from our own spiritual shortcoming. خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. The man was created weak. You look in the hadith and it said, in shahwa. And the Prophet ﷺ said that the nature of a woman is that her passion is actually greater, but the modesty that Allah has put into her, in her fitra nature, prevents her from doing what many men will do without the same constraints. And this is also a problem, and that's why the danger of fasad always comes on the side of the woman, as the temptress. And that is because men, by their nature, are weak. And therefore the onus was put on both the male and the female. The onus is on the male to lower the gaze. قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِمْ. Tell the believers to lower their gaze. But it was also put on the women. يَغْضُضْنَ مِنْ أَبْصَارِهِنَّ. That they should also lower their gaze, and then يَحْفَظْنَ فُرُوجُهُنَّ, and they should protect their private parts from allowing these type of situations. And then also that they should not expose their zina. Right? وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتُهُنَّ لَمَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا. They should not expose the zina except what manifests from it by the nature of their forms. In other words, women that are large-breasted, they can't hide that in a hijab. So there are certain things that they're not able to cover, and they're not taking responsibility for that, but they're told to dress modestly to protect the men, as well as protecting the women. And so that is there. So this culture wants to say, no, take off all of your clothes. Who are you taking your clothes off for? For the eyes of strange men. Now, one of the things about the vision is occupation. You can occupy something that is not yours with your sight. You see, touch. If I touch this, there's a type of occupation that occurs. My body has occupied this physical space. The same occurs with the eye. If I look at a woman, my eye can occupy her body. And Allah is saying, that is not your property. And therefore, keep out. It's private property. And the sign is the hijab. That is saying, private property. Do not enter. That's what the hijab is. When you see that sign, you're supposed to respect the sign. ذَلِكَ أَدْنَى أَنْ يُعْرَفْنَا فَلَا يُؤْذَيْنَ. That when Allah says that they should put the jalabib, right, on, it is because that is more appropriate, that they should be known and not harmed. So the whole point of the hijab is to protect a woman's private space, because that space is not the right of a man to trespass against. And so unfortunately, one of the things about foolish people is that they have big houses. See, this is one of the beauties of Islam. If you go to Muslim cultures, do you know how Muslim houses were made? They were made by making them outwardly ugly and inwardly beautiful. You go to Fez and you walk around Fez. And Fez is one of the ugliest cities you'll ever see as you walk down the streets. All the houses look like they're about to fall apart. You step into the door of those houses and suddenly you're in a garden. It's all tiled. It's all beautiful. Why do you think the Muslims did that? Because they knew the power of envy in the world. They knew the power of the evil eye. They knew the power of putting out the blessings that Allah has given you and showing them off. Because once you do that, you create a situation where there are bad people out there that are going to harm you. They can harm you just by their eye, by looking with envy at something that Allah has given you. And that is why, if Allah has made you beautiful, part of the modesty of that gift is not to display that beauty in any arrogant way. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made you wealthy, it is not to flaunt that wealth. This does not mean that a wealthy man wears rags. But the point is, a wealthy man should not be doing ostentatious displays of wealth, like jewelry all over. See, women in traditional Muslim culture, they don't wear their jewelry outside. They cover that up. That jewelry is for their friends. It's for their family. It's for their husbands. It's for themselves. Because they're allowing you into their private space, and they trust because you're a friend, you're not going to have malintent when you look at them. You'll appreciate something. And that's one of the gifts when somebody comes into your house. See, if I have a guest, I show them my manuscripts. I have manuscripts. I have a Quran that was written several hundred years ago by hand. I have a first edition of George Sale's Quran. These are some of the most precious things that I have. When somebody comes in my house, I like to show them those things as a way of honoring them as well. Just saying, this is the most precious thing I have, and I want to share that with you. And that's a very human thing to do, to want to share what is precious with those that are close to you. But you have to beware of showing what is precious to those who you don't know, because There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's different types of people out there. And so that is what this is all about. It's about protection and protecting women. And so that's what I was saying about houses. That in the Muslim world, the Muslims do not displaying their houses from the outward, they display them from the inward. And that is what a woman does. She's like that house. Her beauty is interiorized. And she allows into that beautiful space the ones that she chooses, that are permissible, and also from her family members, her friends from amongst women, and then the male maharim. Those are the people that she trusts and allows into that private space. So in this culture, the idea is if you've got it, flaunt it. Some of the most miserable people in this culture, and if you do studies, and I know a psychiatrist that worked with bulimia and anorexia and these problems that are often related to women, and she told me that some of the most severe cases that she'd ever seen were from models, professional models, which were very beautiful women. All they were told since they were little is how beautiful they were. And one of the things they do in Mauritania with the children, they say, "You're so ugly, you're so ugly." They do it very sweetly, but they don't like the idea of always telling children how beautiful they are, to create a type of conceit. But obviously I wouldn't advise saying you're so ugly. I mean, they seem to survive it psychologically, but a lot of people are devastated by that. There's two things I wanted to get to, because it's about domestic violence. And domestic violence, the problem with men, that 98% of them are giving the other 2% a bad name. That took a little while. It's all right. I want to talk about, obviously, Surah An-Nisa, verse 34. That's the verse that obviously causes consternation for non-Muslims and a lot of confusion for Muslims. And I would like to just discuss it as briefly as possible, and then I want to talk about something that I think can help people to understand polarity in human relationships, a useful model. When Allah says, الرجال قوامون على النساء, men are maintainers of women, the qawwam there, it does not say that men have this type of political authority that is often assumed. What it is it's a financial obligation, that men are obliged financially to take care of women. Women do not have that obligation. It's something they were freed from in Sharia. And what that means is that all wealth that women acquire is what we would call discretionary wealth. In other words, they use it to their own discretion. If they want to share with their husbands, they can do that. If they want to keep it for themselves, they can do that. And a woman is, by Sharia, she has the right to be maintained to the socioeconomic status that she was accustomed to before she was married, unless she relinquishes that right. So if a woman is wealthy before she's married, and she marries a wealthy man who cannot